Guess who has a new album out? The Horrors!
Well, hi everyone. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for an album review. This is the third LP from UK rock outfit The Horrors. And before the band put this LP up streaming for free on their website, they dropped the single Still Life, which I loved a lot, got me really kind of psyched for the record. Now, if you've listened to this band's first LP, you know they were off to a very bold and eccentric start. Just those dissonant guitars, that organ, the speed, the aggression, the forced vocals. And with the hair and the clothes, just the image these guys were broadcasting, it kind of bordered on gimmicky maybe a little bit. But things got refined on the band's second LP. It's like the sideshow and the music finally hit this perfect balance, and the group really found a way to make slower and moodier songs, but still make them carry the same impact, the same punch that their louder and faster tunes do. Of course, it's not like they were completely in the dark when they were going about this. They definitely wore their post-punk influences on their sleeves. Now, on Skying, things mature even more. Mature. Almost to the point where it's not as exciting or thrilling as it used to be to listen to these guys, maybe. And not to say this is a terrible LP. It's a good and likable LP. It's just got some very underwhelming potholes for me. My main issue with some of the tracks on Skying has to do with the effects and the atmosphere surrounding some of these songs. I mean, honestly, I'm fed up with groups slathering their music in so much reverb and so much echo, it really no longer becomes about the music. A lot of the effects that the Horrors throw on their music on this LP don't define or tell or explain or color. They obscure, they cover, they veil in a way that makes the Horrors seem kind of faceless. I could think of a few groups in recent memory that have kind of made albums with similar effects and came up with something unique, like No Age, Crystal Stilts, Women as well. But in the case of Skying, the effects on this LP just end up taking what makes this band stand out, what makes them unique, and putting them on the back burner, putting them in a spot where they can't really be heard or seen. Look at the track Changing the Rain. If I wasn't told that was a Horrors song, I would have never, ever, ever guessed. And who is singing on the track? Is it Ferris Rotter? I don't know. I can only assume so, because it doesn't sound like him. It just sounds like every other band using this level of effects. I pretty much feel the same way on Dive In and Wide Eyed. There are just all these really syrupy atmospheres and emotions floating around, and really no pancake to go with it. My favorite tracks on Skying are the leaner tracks, the more simple tracks, the less effect-heavy tracks, the more straightforward tracks. Things on this album finally kind of pick up with I Can See Through You, but the band finally goes for the throat on Endless Blue. The guitars blare on that track, I hear the bass, the drums push a really nice beat as well. Everything is very defined, very rigid, and nothing is lost in all this murk. The opening is really gentle too, and I love the way these guys incorporate these horn arrangements that show up. The track Still Life to me, though, is kind of this perfect combination, this perfect blend of Horrors' new and old selves. In a way, it kind of ends up having the aesthetic of what may happen if you too were forced to put some kind of spin on post-punk music. Really big time and glamorous. I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. It's a pretty accessible tune, but it doesn't lose that moody edge that Horrors pull out of their pockets every once in a while. The effects are here, but they're not overbearing. And the horns show up again and play the best arrangements they've got on the album. One of my favorite tracks on this LP, though, is The Longest, Moving Further Away. With every release, the Horrors find out different ways to not only make their long tracks longer, but also some of the most interesting moments on the album. As good as Primary Colors is, it would be a tragedy to see these guys make the same album over again. I'm happy that they're experimenting, happy they're doing something different, but these really weak tips of the hat to psychedelic music on this album, and just effects are not doing it for me. They just kind of make these guys end up sounding bland on some of these tracks, in my opinion. I didn't love it, but I did think Skying was a pretty good record. Feeling a light 7 on this thing, but what do you think about it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, The Horrors, Skying, Forever.